Policy. I will now recognize Mr. Mills for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, we actually even have websites like LegStorm and others that tell exactly who's in our offices, so it's kind of funny that the appointee does not. Secretary Kerry, thank you so much for coming here. I hope it wasn't too problematic for your operational team and your private jet to get here. But I will start with the fact that in an interview in September of 2021, when asked about the importing of solar panels that were built with Uyghur slave labor, that the trade-off between climate and human rights, you said life is full of tough choices. Do you believe the question of whether to import solar panels built on the backs of Uyghur slaves is such a tough choice?
No, of course not. Not only do I not believe it, but I've raised it in my my meetings over the years, raised it consistently as Secretary of State, as Senator.
So you didn't.
I don't even know where I don't know what the context is of the conversation you're referring to, but
Interesting.
I'm making it crystal clear.
Got it. Secretary Kerry, you have prioritized rapid deployment of PRC solar panels above the human rights of enslaved Uyghurs, the interests of American manufacturers, and the integrity of the Department of Commerce's investigations. What is the benefit of that?
I'm not sure. Can you repeat that?
Sure. I said in my statement that you have prioritized rapid deployment of PRC, which is China solar panels, above the human rights of enslaved Uyghurs, the interest of American manufacturing, and the integrity of the Department of Commerce's investigations.
No, I have never, ever prioritized bringing in any solar panel that violates the Uyghur Enforcement Act.
Can you tell me exactly where solar panels and the raw material sourcing comes from?
Where and which panels?
Name them.
Well, there are three major companies that were bringing in panels at one point in time, but most of those panels, the ones
Tell me
that
where those companies are from?
one, I think a couple were from China, one might have been Vietnam, but it's my understanding, Congressman.
So, but none were American is what you just basically pointed out, right? So it was China and it was Vietnam, meaning that we're prioritizing the idea of ceasing American energy and going after American energy to prioritize what we already know is an adversarial nation. And I'm tired of hearing this
No, actually,
idea.
it's
Sir,
the
I'm
opposite.
talking, please.
Yeah.
Sensory strategic competition. I'm sorry, that if we're talking about strategic competition, we're talking about the fact that American economy, American industrial base, American raw material and supply chain capability and capacity, our own ability to put Americans to work, our own ability to try and drive down inflation. We're actually in a direct economic and resource and cyber warfare with China and have been for 20-plus years. It's been ignored. While China has advanced their Belt and Road Initiative, while they have expanded the Eurasian border, tried to dominate Africa, taken over Oceania, blocking off internationally recommended transit corridors for Horn of Africa, Mediterranean, Red Sea, Black Sea, Persian Gulf, so they can choke off Western Hemisphere supply chain. And meanwhile, we know that the threat that's going on with Taiwan, we know that China has continued to violate international treaties like the one country, two system framework of Hong Kong that they've exhibited. We know that Chairman Xi wants to basically go ahead and save face for his father's name that was corrupted during the Mao dynasty. So my whole point is that if we know all these things and that they're an adversarial nation, why on earth would we try to go ahead and build them economically and not try to go ahead and try and decouple from China as we should be in an effort to go ahead and build American manufacturers and American jobs and American workers and American economy?
Well, we're not trying to build them economically. I can assure you of that.
Who's their largest trade partner?
Let me just finish.
America.
Yes, but most economists, most investors, most people who have studied this issue very carefully do not believe it is possible to totally decouple from China.
It absolutely is, sir. And I can tell you that if we would utilize things like seabed harvesting for our raw materials, if we would look at the understanding of what we can do as a nation from LNG, from fracking, from our oil and gas.
We're doing all those things.
I can tell you the biggest thing is we're not going to get away and start having tanks that are EV. We can go ahead and plant on the battlefield our chargers for Tesla prior to us deploying into war. But I'll just finish with this. This solar emergency that we keep talking about and the preemptively directed commerce to suspend tariffs on solar imports from 4 Southeast Asian countries, Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand for the last 2 years. This is in despite of the fact that the Biden administration's own investigation found that PRC companies to be transshipping through these very countries in a sophisticated effort to evade tariffs. We have done nothing to actually try and combat that, and instead, we've actually gone ahead and increased our trade. This is a China first, America last agenda that you're pushing. I do not agree with the fact that we're not allowing more manufacturing in America to continue, and that we're not encouraging that more than trying to continue to trade with what is known not as a competitor, sir, but as an adversary. And with that, I yield back.
So can I respond, Mr. Chairman, a little bit? There is nothing in President Biden's policy that is geared to try to assist China in its development, which it has been doing in a number of different ways, some of them in violation of the WTO, some of them not. But the fact is that we had a solar industry. Germany had a solar industry, and China dumped for a number of years, and we lost those industries. Now President Biden's trying to get them back. That is the entire purpose of the Inflation Reduction Act, and it's working. It is creating a new supply chain here in our country. In addition to that, the Uyghur Act is being enforced. It's being enforced, and there are countless panels not coming into our country because the border and customs folks have been enforcing that act. So I just don't agree with your facts, which began with the presentation of one of the most outrageously persistent lies that I hear, which is this private jet. We don't own a private jet. I don't own a private jet. I personally have never owned a private jet. And obviously, it's pretty stupid to talk about coming in a private jet from the State Department up here. Just honestly, if that's where you want to go there. Believe me.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Kim
inflation
for
is
5
down.
minutes. Chair now recognizes Mr. Kim.